Most gardeners who use cardboard to build soil are sabotaging their own worm population. They lay it down dry, straight from the box pile, soak it once with a hose, cover it with mulch, and expect an explosion of life underneath. What they actually create is a temporary moisture barrier that sheds water, dries unevenly, and decomposes slowly. The result is fewer worms, patchy breakdown, and soil that stays biologically sluggish longer than it should. If you're serious about building soil that feeds itself, subscribe to the channel. We don't just repeat common advice here, we test it and measure the difference. Here's what changed everything for me: pond soaking the cardboard before it ever touches the soil. Dry cardboard is biologically dead weight at first. Cardboard is mostly carbon. It's a brown material with a high carbon-to-nitrogen ratio, often around 350 to 1 or higher, depending on thickness and glue content. That's fine long-term, but when you lay it down dry, you're placing a carbon sheet on soil without active biology attached to it. In my early no-dig beds, I laid down double-layer corrugated cardboard overlapped by about 4 inches, then covered with 3 inches of compost and 4 inches of straw. It looked textbook perfect. 3 weeks later, I lifted a corner expecting worm clusters. I found almost none. The cardboard was damp on top, dry in the ridges, and barely colonized by fungi. Dry cardboard absorbs moisture unevenly. The fluted channels inside act like air pockets. Water runs off or moves along the surface instead of fully saturating the structure. That means microbes take longer to colonize, and worms don't move in until microbial density increases. Pond-soaked cardboard starts decomposing before it hits the soil. When you submerge cardboard in biologically active pond water for 24 to 48 hours, you change the entire starting condition. Instead of inert carbon, you're laying down a pre-inoculated substrate loaded with bacteria, fungal spores, protozoa, and dissolved nutrients. I use a livestock trough or a large 27-gallon storage tote. For a standard 4x8 raised bed, I'll soak enough flattened cardboard sheets to cover the surface in a single layer, fully submerged, weighted down with a brick if necessary. The water should come from a healthy pond, one that smells earthy, not sulfurous. After about 24 hours, the cardboard becomes fully saturated. It's not just wet on the surface, but the inner flutes are actually filled with water and microbes. When you lay that onto soil, worms respond a lot faster because the microbial bloom begins immediately. The difference really shows up in worm counts within just a few weeks. I ran side-by-side tests on 2 identical 4x8 beds. One received dry cardboard laid down and then watered in. The other got cardboard that was soaked for about 36 hours in pond water, diluted at roughly 1 part pond water to 3 parts fresh water. Both beds were topped with 2 inches of finished compost and 3 inches of shredded leaf mulch. After 4 weeks, I took soil cores measuring roughly 6 inches wide and 8 inches deep. In the dry cardboard bed, I averaged 6 to 8 worms per core. In the pond-soaked cardboard bed, counts ranged from 14 to 18 worms in the same volume. That's not subtle at all, that's more than double. So, the key isn't just moisture, it's biology. A lot of people assume the main benefit here is hydration, but honestly, it's not. I went ahead and tested fully saturated cardboard soaked only in hose water versus pond water. The plain water version, well, it did perform a little better than dry cardboard, but it was nowhere near as effective as the pond-soaked treatment. The real difference comes down to microbial colonization. Pond water is full of suspended algae, bacterial colonies, fungal fragments, and tiny microscopic grazers. When those organisms get trapped inside the channels of corrugated cardboard, they multiply really quickly in that carbon-rich, moist environment. Worms don't actually eat cardboard directly. What they're really after is the microbial biofilm that forms on it. So when you speed up that biofilm formation, you also speed up worm recruitment. Thickness and layering matter a lot more than most advice suggests. One really common mistake is stacking several thick layers of cardboard. I've personally tested single layer versus triple layer installations, and triple layers just slow down oxygen diffusion and delay colonization. If your goal is maximum worm breeding, you'll want to stick with a single layer of corrugated cardboard, overlapped just enough to suppress weeds but not stacked too heavily. In compacted soil, I'll sometimes perforate the cardboard with a garden fork before laying compost, just a few punctures per square foot. That makes it easier for worms to move upward. But, in raised beds with already loose soil, that step isn't necessary. So here's how this works in small backyard gardens. If you're working with a 100 square foot backyard plot, you'll likely need about 15 to 20 large cardboard panels flattened out. Soak them in a 30-gallon container filled halfway with pond water and halfway with rainwater or dechlorinated water. Let them sit at least overnight. The water will darken slightly, that's fine. Next, lay the saturated cardboard directly onto weeded soil. Then apply 1 to 2 inches of compost, then 2 to 4 inches of mulch. Within 10 days, in warm weather, you'll start seeing castings near the edges where you lift a corner. By week 3, worm density noticeably increases along the cardboard layer. Now, what about hydroponic or contained systems? In soil-based hydroponic grow beds, systems using cocoa coir, compost blends, or bioactive media, you can shred pond-soaked cardboard into strips and mix lightly into the top 2 inches of media at roughly 5% by volume. I've done this in 3x6 grow troughs. The worm bins integrated into those systems responded strongly. Population growth accelerated compared to dry, shredded cardboard additions. You do not want large sheets in hydroponic setups. Keep it fragmented and moderate to avoid anaerobic pockets. Here's what happens when this method backfires. If your pond is unhealthy, you'll transfer problems. Water with chemical algicides, fish antibiotics, or high ammonia content can disrupt soil biology. Use only water from stable ecosystems. Also, if your soil is extremely nitrogen poor, heavy cardboard use can temporarily immobilize nitrogen. In those cases, I lightly dust the surface with about half a pound of aged manure per 4x8 bed before applying compost. That balances the carbon load. Too much cardboard, even soaked, can create compaction as it collapses. Keep it single-layered and covered properly. Seasonal timing changes the outcome. Spring and early summer applications yield the fastest worm expansion because soil temperatures between 60 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit favor microbial reproduction. In colder conditions, decomposition slows but still benefits from pre-soaking. In peak summer heat above 90 degrees, make sure the bed stays mulched and moist. Pond-soaked cardboard dries slower than dry cardboard, but high heat can still reduce microbial survival if left exposed. Why does dry cardboard persist longer but perform worse? Some gardeners argue dry cardboard lasts longer as a weed barrier. That's true. But longevity isn't the goal if you're building living soil. Pond-soaked cardboard decomposes faster, sometimes 30 to 40% faster in my observations. But that faster breakdown feeds worms and integrates organic matter into soil sooner. You're trading a slightly shorter weed barrier lifespan for dramatically higher biological activity. I'll take the worms every time. What actually happens underground? Within days, fungi begin threading through the cardboard fibers. Bacteria multiply along the ridges. Protozoa graze on bacterial colonies. Worms detect the concentration of microbial life and move upward, As they tunnel, they drag fragments downward. Castings accumulate along the interface between soil and decomposing cardboard. After 6 to 8 weeks, the cardboard becomes unrecognizable. What remains is darker, aggregated soil with visible channels. In one test bed, organic matter increased by roughly 0.5% over a single growing season using this method twice. That's a significant gain in real-world soil building. This isn't about gimmicks, it's about ecological sequencing. Dry cardboard is passive, pond-soaked cardboard is active. One waits for life to arrive, the other delivers life immediately. If you're already mulching, composting and building beds, this is a small adjustment with disproportionate impact. And that's the kind of change that compounds over years. If you value practical field-tested methods that actually increase worm populations and improve soil structure, subscribe to the channel and share this with another serious grower. Building better soil means growing better food, and that starts with understanding what truly drives life underground.